Dumb Husky and his white cat Shizun. Chapter 22. This venerable one's Shizun is about to get angry. When Chu Wanning heard this, he was so angry that he could barely keep himself from retracting Tianwen and slashing the Chen couple. But he couldn't open his eyes to confront them. Once he opened his eyes, the barrier would be broken. The return to truth barrier could only trap a ghost once. If his interrogation was interrupted, he wouldn't be able to listen to any more of Luo Xiangxian's story. All he could do was contain his overwhelming rage and continue listening to Luo Xiangxian. After she died, her soul entered the underworld, unaware and confused. The only thing that she could make out was a woman wearing red and green robes with facial features that resembled the Master of Ceremonies deity enshrined in a temple. The Master of Ceremonies deity stood in front of her and asked her in a soft voice, "You and Chen Bohuan couldn't share a bed in life. Would you like to share the same grave in death?" She hurriedly agreed, "Yes. Yes, please. Then I can let him come join you right away. What do you think?" Luo Xiangxian wanted to blurt out a yes, rushing to agree, but suddenly remembered something and froze. "Am I dead?" "Yes. I am the ghost mistress. I can give you the destiny you deserve and fulfill your long-cherished wish." Luo Xiangxian was startled. "Then, if he comes to join me, will he also die?" "Yes. However, if love persists in the afterlife, life and death are irrelevant. What difference does it make?" Chu Wanning heard this. He thought to himself that he had been right. This Master of Ceremonies deity would persuade others to make a wish so that she could reap the benefits. This deity was truly diabolical. Although Luo Xiangxian died unjustly, she hadn't yet become a malevolent ghost, so she repeatedly shook his head. "No. It wasn't his fault. You can't kill him." The Master of Ceremonies deity smiled compassionately, "And what did you get in return for this kindness?" It didn't force Luo Xiangxian to do anything. As an immortal being, they could persuade someone to make a bad wish, but they couldn't force them. Its figure gradually faded away, its voice becoming hazier and hazier. "Return to the world in 7 days. During that time, go and see how the Chen family is faring. After that, I'll ask you again if you still have no regrets about your decision." Then the 7th day has arrived. Luo Xiangxian's soul returned to a conscious form and returned to the world of the living. Following the old road, she eagerly walked towards the Chen house to see her husband for the last time. Unexpectedly, the Chen house was decorated with lights, and outside the courtyard, there were fireworks. Bridal flowers were decorating the halls. And a big double happiness banner was hanging in front of the main hall. Madame Chen was radiant, not appearing sickly in the slightest. She was smiling and instructing the servants to wrap the bouquets with red silk. Who was having a wedding? Who were the bride and groom? Who? No one was engaged. What was going on? Who? She walked through the busy crowd, listening to the sound of people in the world of the living. "Congratulations, Madame Chen. Your son is getting engaged to the daughter of the county magistrate. When's the wedding?" "Madame Chen, you're so fortunate. Yao Qianjin is truly the lucky star of the Chen family and they aren't even official yet. Madame Chen, you look so much healthier already. Your son and Yao Qianjin are a match made in heaven. I'm so jealous, ha 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 ha." Her son. Her son. Which son? Which one was marrying the daughter of the Yao family? She shuttled back and forth across the familiar front yard, growing more and more frantic, looking for that familiar figure in the midst of all the laughter. Then she found him. In front of the peony flowers in the back hall, Chen Bohuan stood with his hands behind his back with a haggard face and sunken cheeks. However, he was dressed in red. Even though it wasn't a traditional wedding outfit, it was a Kaidi town custom. When a prospective son-in-law comes to propose marriage, he would wear this type of red robes. Was he going to propose? The decorations in the whole house, the strings of gold and silver beads, was it all from Chen Bohuan, her husband, as a dowry for the daughter of the Yao family? She suddenly recalled the time when they got married. There was nothing but two people that shared one heart, nothing else. There was no master of ceremonies, no bridesmaids, and no dowry. The Chen family weren't wealthy at that time and didn't even own a decent set of jewelry. He went into the yard and picked a delicate orange blossom from under the orange tree they had planted together and carefully tucked it behind her ear. She asked him, "Does it look good?" He said it looked beautiful. After a moment of silence, he stroked her hair with some sadness and told her, "You deserve so much better than this." Luo Xianxian smiled and pursed his lips, saying that it didn't matter. Chen Bohuan told her that when he married her 3 years later, he would hold a lively wedding banquet. He would invite people from all over the town. He would have her make a grand entrance on a large sedan chair. He would give her gold and silver to wear, and the dowry gifts would fill the entire main hall. Those vows still echoed in her ears. Now, all those promises have come true, the hall filled with gifts and guests. He was getting married, just not to her. A monstrous flame of anger and sorrow surged through her. Luo Xianxian screamed, trying to tear at the hanging red silk in the room. But she was a ghost, she couldn't touch anything. Chen Bohuan seemed to vaguely notice something. He turned around, staring at the silk moving despite there being no wind. His eyes were dull and hollow. His little sister came over, a white jade hairpin clipped on the side of her bun. No one knew who she was secretly mourning by wearing it. She said, "Big brother, go to the kitchen to eat something. You haven't had a proper meal in days. You have to hurry up and go to the county magistrate's house later to propose. Your body won't hold up." Chen Bohuan suddenly asked without thinking, "Sister, did you hear someone crying?" "What? No, brother, I think you're still." She gritted her teeth and didn't finish her thought. Chen Bohuan still stared at the fluttering silk sheets. "How is mother? Is she happy? Has her illness been cured?" "Brother, I'm glad she's feeling better." Chen Bohuan stood there, muttering to himself. "I already lost Luo Xianxian, I couldn't lose my mother as well." "Brother, go eat something," the sister persuaded. Luo Xianxian wailed. She yelled and bawled with her head in her hands. Don't go, please don't go." Chen Bohuan said. "All right." The haggard figure disappeared around the corner. Luo Xianxian stood alone in a daze, large tears rolling down her face. Suddenly, she heard the brothers of the Chen family who killed her approaching. The second eldest brother and the younger brother were whispering to each other. "Mother is finally happy. Finally, things are going our way. Right? She pretended to be sick for half an year. Now that the cursed bitch is gone, how could she not be thrilled?" The younger brother tsked and said, "How come she died? We wanted to force her out, not kill her. Was she really so stupid that she couldn't even find someone to help her? Who knows? She was weak, just like her rotten father. It's not our fault that she died. Even though mother pretended to be sick to get rid of her, our family has its own struggles. Think about it, when the options are a county magistrate's daughter and some pauper girl, only a fool would choose the latter. Besides, even if Yao Qianjin is a brat, she's got enough money to go around. Yes, she's so dumb. She didn't want to live, so she let herself freeze to death. No one could have saved her." The words drifted to her ears. After Luo Xianxian died, she finally understood the so-called divine fate. She was poor and humble and couldn't compare to the county magistrate's daughter who was noble and rich. Only a fool would choose the pauper girl. With that, she finally snapped. She returned to the master of ceremonies deity's temple full of hatred and resentment. She died there. Unlike how weak and helpless she was when she died, she returned with overwhelming hostility. She used to be such a kind person, but now, all the hatred and evil that had been building up inside her while she was alive came flooding out. She roared, her eyes turning red, her soul trembling. She said, I, Luo Xianxian, would like to give up my soul and follow the path of wickedness. I only ask you to avenge me. I want the Chen family, I don't want you to kill them. I want to let my beastly mother-in-law kill her sons by her own hand. All her sons. I want Chen Bohuan to go to hell with me. Let him be buried with me. Do it for me. I hate them. I hate them. The eyes of the clay sculpture on the shrine shifted and the corners of its mouth slowly raised. A hollow voice echoed through the temple. I have heard your prayers. It will be as you wish. As an evil spirit, kill all those that you resent. A piercing blood-red light flashed, and Luo Xianxian couldn't remember anything after that. However, Chu Wanning already knew what happened next. After that, the Master of Ceremonies deity manipulated Luo Xianxian's spirit to possess Madame Chen and forced her to kill each member of the Chen family. The red coffin on top of the mountain, the reason why Chen Bohuan was dug up, naturally, was because the Master of Ceremonies deity was fulfilling Luo Xianxian's greatest wish, let Chen Bohuan and I be buried together. Moreover, it deliberately placed the coffin on the property of Chen Bohuan and his new wife as an act of spiteful revenge. As for the floral scent in Chen Bohuan's coffin, it was the scent of the butterfly fragrance powder that Luo Xianxian had worn before her death. The resentment and fragrance in the coffin were both extremely strong because Luo Xianxian's soul was resting alongside Chen Bohuan inside it. Luo Xianxian had no family. According to the customs, if a person like that dies, their bones should be cremated instead of buried. Therefore, she had no physical body and could only be contained within the coffin by the Master of Ceremonies deity. That's why, when Chu Wanning opened the coffin with his willow vine, Luo Xianxian had escaped the coffin's containment. Her soul flew away, and it was difficult to recapture. It was a situation of a closed coffin being heavy with resentment but an open coffin being light. However, during the illusion, why did other people have dead bodies as their partners but Chen Bohuan only had a papier-mâché ghost bride? Chu Wanning thought for a moment and figured out this much: the Master of Ceremonies deity didn't break its promise. The papier-mâché bride was the physical body that it gave to Luo Xianxian. It was a vessel so that Luo Xianxian could be buried with Chen Bohuan. Everything was clear. Chu Wanning looked at the weak and helpless girl in the barrier. He wanted to say something but didn't know what. Elder Yuhan wasn't particularly good at comforting words. He couldn't think of anything, so he stayed silent, not having anything he could say. The girl stood in the vast darkness with her soft round eyes open. Chu Wanning looked at her eyes and couldn't bear it. He wanted to leave. He didn't want to take another look. He was about to open his eyes and leave the return to truth barrier. Then the girl suddenly spoke. Lord Yama. I have something else I want to tell you. Chu Wanning. Go ahead. The girl suddenly lowered her head, covered her eyes, and cried. She said softly, Lord Yama, I don't know what I did after that. But, I really didn't want to kill my husband. I didn't want to be an evil spirit. I didn't steal the oranges. I really am Chen Bohuan's wife. And I truly didn't want to hurt anyone either. I truly didn't want anyone to get hurt. Please believe me. Her voice choked and trembled, her words breaking. I didn't lie. I didn't lie. Why is it that, in this life, almost no one believed me? She sobbed and screamed. Chu Wanning's voice sounded low in the darkness. He didn't say much, but he said it with conviction. I understand. Luo Xianxian was shocked. Chu Wanning added, I believe you. Luo Xianxian wiped her tears with her hands but they still flowed unceasingly. Hiding her tearful face, she lowered her head and bowed her head in his direction in the darkness. Chu Wanning opened his eyes. After he opened his eyes, he didn't speak for a long time. Time in the barrier wasn't the same as in reality. He had stayed there for a long time, but, for the people waiting outside, it had only been a moment. Mo Ran hadn't returned yet. The few remaining people in the Chen family were still looking at him with bated breath. Chu Wanning withdrew Tianwen and said to Madame Chen, "I'll avenge you. You can go in peace." Madame Chen froze and opened her blood-red eyes, then suddenly fell to the ground with a thud, knocked out cold. Chu Wanning raised his head again. His eyes swept across Chen Yuanhui's face, then landed on the youngest son. His voice didn't waver, and it was still frighteningly cold. "I'll ask one last time." He said each word slowly and decisively. "Did you really not recognize whose voice that was?" End chapter. Dumb Husky and his white cat Shizun. Chapter 23. This venerable one couldn't stop him. Chen Yanji, the youngest son, was trembling. He was stuck in the middle of a standoff. He raised his head to look at his father. Chen Yuanhui, on the other hand, shifted his gaze away. After a brief pause, he firmly said, "No. I don't recognize it. Didn't he hear it?" Chu Wanning's face looked like it was covered in frost as he whispered, "Lies." Originally, his expression was extremely stern, but now his sharp eyebrows furrowed and he looked so murderous that he was even more terrifying than the evil ghost. Chen Yuanhui involuntarily took a few steps back. Chu Wanning fiercely snapped Tianwen against the ground. In a sudden crack, flames erupted and flew in all directions, and the green leaves flew up in a flurry. Horrified, Chen Yuanhui fell to the ground with a thud. "Did your family make the butterfly fragrance powder? Who was your eldest son's first wife? Who is Luo Xianxian? Do you have any dignity left?" Chen Yuanhui's mouth fumbled, opening and closing. In the end, he couldn't find the words to explain, his complexion gradually flushing from pale to red. Rather, it was the Chen's family's young daughter, who had been crouching next to him, that spoke. When she heard the name Luo Xianxian, she wailed. She leaped over, kneeling in front of her mother and shaking her unconscious body, "Sister Luo. Sister Luo, did you do all this? I know you don't want to leave, but I beg you, for my sake, please let my family go. Sister Luo." Chu Wanning leaned down. Holding Tianwen's wooden handle, emanating a golden light, he used it to raise Chen Yuanhui's head. Chu Wanning's has an obsession with hygiene and cleanliness. He wouldn't even touch the hands of the people who disgusts him. The slightest touch gave him goosebumps. "Did you think I wouldn't know when someone's lying to me?" He stared at Chen Yuanhui frigidly, and he saw his face reflected in his horrified eyes. His glare was really unpleasant, so cold and ruthless, like a blade covered with frost and snow. But so what? Yu Heng of the night sky never needed anyone's affection. esteemed cultivator, you're the master from Shizun Peak, I am the client, how can you interfere with my private affairs like that?" Chu Wanning said, "Is that so? Then I shouldn't care as well. I'll leave and let you accept your fate." "No. No, no, no. You can't." "I can't." Chu Wanning narrowed his eyes, the glint in his phoenix eyes was threatening. "I can't what?" "I'm, you. A person like you. If we had a disciple like you in my sect," Chu Wanning stroked Tianwen gently and murmured, "I would have sliced your skin and snapped your bones." At this point, Chen Yuanhui couldn't continue the charade anymore. He saw that Chu Wanning was deadly serious and didn't have the usual amicableness of a typical cultivator. He didn't want to appear any weaker than he already was, but he couldn't stop his legs from giving out. He fell to his knees with a thud and cried, "Esteemed cultivator, we couldn't offend the county magistrate's daughter. We've lost sleep over it, unable to eat because of it." "Esteemed cultivator." Chu Wanning could tell that he was going to grab onto his legs. With Chu Wanning's deep obsession with cleanliness and seeing that Chen Yuanwei was going to touch him, Tianwen shot down as he said in disgust, "Don't touch me." Ah! Tianwen had struck the back of Chen Yuanwei's hand. Even though there was no spiritual power infused into it, Chen Yuanwei still cried out and yelled, "Heavens! A master from Shizun Peak would beat an ordinary civilian. You!" At that moment, Mo Ran had arrived. As he was helping the two injured people into the house, he saw Chen Yuanwei kneeling on the ground with tears rolling down his face, pointing a trembling finger at Chu Wanning and yelling, "Which sect would do this sort of thing? I commissioned you from Shizun Peak. Not only do you not protect your client, but you also beat them. This is serious, this is truly how shameless. I would tell this to the entire world. I want everyone to know about this. I am going to tell everyone about your attitude. It'll ruin your reputation and you'll never earn another penny." Chu Wanning replied angrily, "Why should I care about money? Can money resolve your conflicts? Can you use it to repay a debt of gratitude? Can you do whatever you want and go back on your word if you have money?" Chen Yanji, who was next to his father, said timidly, "We didn't kill Luo Xianxian. We only beat her a bit and drove her out. She was the one that didn't want to live. It was snowing and she didn't try to find some shelter. How can we be blamed for that? We didn't kill anyone. You're a cultivation master, you can't toss around blame like that so carelessly." His remarks were extremely sharp. As far as the law is concerned, the Chen family didn't do anything wrong. Even if Chu Wanning turned them over to the court, the judge would, at best, blame the Chen family for being untrustworthy, but they would never find them all guilty. "Mother didn't kill our older brother died because of us. You really figured it all out, didn't you?" The hand Chu Wanning had wrapped around Tianwen trembled slightly because of his rage. Chen Yuanwei was a wily old man and he had already recovered from his previous panic. He was worried that Chu Wanning would leave them alone with the evil spirit, but on second thought, this powerful cultivator was sent by Shizun Peak. Shizun Peak was the #1 sect in the lower cultivation world. Once they accepted a commission, the cultivation masters sent to vanquish the evil had to complete the task. This was something everyone in the realm knew. After coming to this conclusion, he wasn't so scared anymore. Holding his hand that had a small scrap across it, he sobbed with tears and snot on his face, "Figure it out. The Chen family has never done anything wrong. We didn't do or cause anything. Luo Xianxian didn't want to live, but she was fine mooching off of us. If you don't get rid of this ghost today, I'll march straight into Shizun Peak and complain you. How can you do things like this? You take people's money and get rid of their problems. Do you not understand that? You still..." Before he finished speaking, Chu Wanning took his own money pouch and angrily threw it in front of Chen Yuanwei. "Whatever the sect charged you, I am refunding it. As for wanting to complain, do what you want." Tianwen lit up, its willow leaves gleaming like knives. Chen Yuanwei was caught off guard. He squealed, his head jumbled with fear, and in a panic, he dragged his young daughter in front of him to block the willow vine. It was fortunate that Chu Wanning was used to whipping others and Tianwen was linked to his mind. It immediately retracted, narrowly avoiding the Chen family daughter. It instead spun around, finding Mr. Chen's face and slashing across his cheek. Blood splattered everywhere as he screamed. Chen Yuanwei didn't expect that Chu Wanning would retaliate. All his aggression had completely melted into a bubble of mud, and he fled shouting, "Stop! No more! Esteemed cultivator, ignore my rambling. It was all nonsense. Esteemed cultivator. Esteemed cultivator, forgive me. Ouch, I beg you. I'm old and can't bear it. Be merciful. It's our fault. It's the Chen family's fault." Chu Wanning wasn't going to listen to it. Anger boiled in his chest, his phoenix eyes ruthless as Tianwen moved so fast, the eyes couldn't keep up with it. He beat Chen Yuanwei to the floor, who burst into tears. Standing in the doorway, Mo Ran was stunned. This was the first time he had seen Chu Wanning using Tianwen on a civilian, and he wasn't holding back. Chen Yuanwei was hunched over like a cow and the willow vine danced like a shadow. What's going on? The contractor was beating up the client. Whether this happened in the lower cultivation realm or the higher cultivation realm, it was enough to discredit the cultivator. No matter how strong his temper was, no matter how impulsive he was, Chu Wanning wouldn't have had such a grave lapse in judgment, right? This was even worse than his crime of theft and prostitution, which was considered a first-degree offense. Shi Mei also paled with fright, and hurriedly tugged on Mo Ran. Quick, go and stop Shizun. Mo Ran handed the unconscious Chen Yao, the daughter of the Yao family, to Shi Mei. He rushed forward to grab Chu Wanning's wrist, shocked and nervous. Shizun, what are you doing? Chu Wanning was really angry. His sharp eyebrows were drawn tightly together as he forced out, let go. Shizun, you're breaking the sect rules. What are you trying to say? That you know the 750 sect rules better than I do? Let go. Mo Ran's voice rose, then what? You'll continue this. Chu Wanning didn't bother talking to him anymore. He flung his sleeves to the side and whipped the vine again, slamming it across Chen Yuanwei. Shizun, exclaimed Mo Ran. Chu Wanning whispered angrily, frost and snow dancing in his eyes, get lost. When Chen Yuanwei looked on, he thought that Mo Ran must be a good person because of his dashing good looks. He quickly stumbled over, hid behind Mo Ran, and tugged on Mo Ran's robe. Esteemed cultivator, you have to talk down your Shizun. I am just an old man. Even if I'm at fault, that doesn't justify being beaten like this. Unexpectedly, Mo Ran turned to look at his face covered in tears and snot and didn't feel any pity towards him. Instead, he only felt disgusted. Ah! He quickly stepped away, repulsed, don't touch me. As soon as Chen Yuanwei saw that he wouldn't help him, his eyes turned to Shi Mei, who was helping set Chen Yao down on a chair not far away. In a last-ditch effort, he crawled towards Shi Mei, bawling and sobbing as he did so. Esteemed cultivator, show some kindness and compassion. I know that I was wrong. It's my fault, it's all my fault. Please, help me convince your Shizun. I made mistakes, I admit it. You can do whatever you want to me, just don't beat me anymore. I'm too old, my body can't stand it. I can't stand it. He cried mournfully, and, in order to ensure his survival, he put on a very sincere act. Crawling to Shi Mei's side, he stretched out his hand and pulled on Shi Mei's clothes. When he saw how remorseful he seemed, Shi Mei raised his head and said to Chu Wanning, Shizun, since the old man admits that he was wrong, you should be merciful and let. Chu Wanning said, get out of my way. Shi Mei. Chu Wanning shouted, you're still in the way. Shi Mei shuddered in fear and moved aside. Tianwen cut through the air with a swoosh, rushing towards Chen Yuanwei. Chen Yuanwei held his head in his hands and let out a heartbreaking cry. The cry was too much for him. Shi Mei stood beside him, and couldn't stop himself from abruptly stepping forward, blocking the whip intended for Chen Yuanwei. The brush of a willow vine sounded. Shi Mei moved too quickly and, by the time Chu Wanning recalled Tianwen, it was too late. Blood splattered on the ground and, since Shi Mei's body was still weak, after receiving the blow, he knelt on the ground, clutching his pale and delicate cheek. That didn't stop the blood, however, and it trickled out through his fingers. End chapter. Dumb Husky and his white cat Shizun. Chapter 24. This venerable one declares cold war on him. For a while, no one spoke in the hall. The only sound that could be heard was the choked sobs of Chen Yuanwei. Shimei lowered his head and covered his cheek. Then he raised his head to look at Chu Wanning, his eyes full of earnestness. "Shizun, stop please. If you continue to fight like this, it will reach Shizhung Peak." Mo Ran was even more frightened. Although he was an asshole, he was infatuated with Shimei. When he came back to this past, he secretly vowed that he would hold on to Shimei and protect him. But it hadn't even been a few days and Shimei had been already injured by Tianwen. What the hell is this? He didn't think about settling things with Chu Wanning. He instead hurried to Shimei's side to check the wound on his face. Shimei said softly, "I won't get in the way." "Let me see," Mo Ran said. "It's all right," Shimei responded. Even though he resisted, Mo Ran still pulled down the hand covering the wound. His eyes suddenly closed. A deep bloody scar hideously stretched across his face. The flesh was flayed and blood kept oozing out, flowing down his neck. Mo Ran's eyes burned red. He bit his lip and stared at it for a long time. He abruptly turned his head and yelled at Chu Wanning, "Are you satisfied now?" Chu Wanning's face was sullen. He didn't say anything, didn't apologize nor step forward but stayed frozen in place, still holding Tianwen in his hand which has become lifeless without any spiritual power in it. Mo Ran's chest seemed to be filled with a myriad of dancing spirits and demons. Who could stand seeing his beloved, who died once in a previous life, repeatedly suffer such aggravation and torture? He and Chu Wanning just stared at each other, neither gave in, neither conceded. It felt like blood vessels were bursting in Mo Ran's eyes. He had hated Chu Wanning with such intensity for so many years. He and the man in front of him were always at odds. When he had first entered the sect, whenever he did something wrong, Chu Wanning would beat him. Then later, Shimei was gravely injured. Chu Wanning only had 3 disciples in his life, yet he had stood idly by and did not save one of them. After Shimei died and Shizun Peak was destroyed, he, Mo Weiyu, had become the emperor of the cultivation world. No one dared to disobey him. Only Chu Wanning rebelled against him, ruining his great campaigns and poking at his conscience, constantly reminding him that the Taxian Jun, no matter how powerful he was nothing more than a heartless madman who betrayed his family. Chu Wanning. Chu Wanning. Before this life and after his death, it's always been him. Both of them were still wearing matching wedding clothes. The red robes faced each other, standing at a distance. There seemed to be an unfilled gap between them. Eventually, Chu Wanning finally recalled Tianwen. Chen Yuanwei heaved a sigh of relief and knelt in front of Shimei. "Thank Buddha, thank Buddha. This esteemed cultivator is a living Buddha who ends all suffering. Thank you for saving my family. Thank you, cultivator, thank you. It was always like this." He dealt with the problem but he drew the willow vine every time. Chu Wanning cleanly did what he was commissioned to do and broke the strict sect rules in the process. In the end, the Buddha was someone else and he was a villain. It had always been like this. He had a bad temper, he admitted it. He had no regrets about what he did, but when Tianwen missed and hit his disciple, he did feel some semblance of guilt. However, his face was thin and he was reluctant to say anything about it, and so he just made to move and walk towards the Chen family's youngest daughter. When the girl saw him, she unconsciously took a few steps back in fright, shivering. Out of the surviving members of the Chen family, she was the only good one left. Chu Wanning spoke in a slightly slower tone, "Your mother has been possessed by a malevolent ghost and has lost more than 20 years of her life. If she still doesn't want to repent and still has evil intentions in her heart, she'll die in the near future. After she wakes up, tell her to personally set up a red mahogany spiritual tablet for Miss Luo. Miss Luo's identity needs to be acknowledged on the tablet. Luo Xianxian is Chen Bohuan's legitimate wife. You have been hiding the truth for years. The truth needs to be known. This will fulfill her life's wish." After a pause, he kept going. In addition, your whole family will kneel down 3 times a day, 3 bows from the knees and 9 full kowtows, and recite the send-off incantation. Only then will you be able to satisfy Miss Luo and drive away the ghost plaguing your family. This incantation must be recited for 10 years without stopping. If you stop halfway through, Miss Luo will come back to seek revenge. The little girl trembled. Understood. Many thanks, esteemed cultivator. Chu Wanning turned his head again, his eyes as sharp as a snow-covered dagger. His gaze swept across Chen Yanji and Chen Yuanwei and said sharply, after Chen Yao wakes up, you both need to tell her everything you've been hiding. Whether she intend to stay or go is up to her. If you try to hide anything, I'll cut your tongues out. The 2 Chen men were originally unscrupulous individuals who wouldn't have dared to agree to this, but out of fear of Chu Wanning, they both repeatedly bowed as a promise. As for the 100 butterfly fragrance powder, Luo Shuzhong prepared it with his own hands, yet you brazenly claim that you made it. You know what to do. I don't need to spell it out for you. Chu Wanning brushed his sleeve aside. We'll go to the shop to fix this, to clarify things. We'll tell everyone that this powder was Mr. Luo's. Mr. Luo's. After everything was arranged, Chu Wanning asked Mo Ran to help Chen Yao back to her room. I'll cleanse the poison from her body. Although Mo Ran held hatred in his heart, he knew that being so young meant that he should offer his Shizun more respect than disobedience, so he stayed quiet. He shook Shi Mei's hand and whispered, go treat your face and stop the bleeding. I'll help her to the room. The Chen family's eldest son's bedroom still had a large red double happiness banner. He was pretty sure that the series of incident happened so fast and hard that he had been too occupied and forgot to take it down. Chen Bohuan had become dust at this point, so it was extremely ironic to look at it like this. In this absurd situation, Chen Yao had eventually become the victim of greed. What would she do once she woke up? Her body was not as resilient as Shi Mei's. After all, she was just an ordinary person. Chu Wanning silently cleansed her body and fed her a pill. During the process, Mo Ran was at his side to provide towels and water. The 2 didn't speak, nor did they look at each other. Upon leaving, Chu Wanning inadvertently glanced at the wall. His eyes shifted away, but he suddenly realized something, and turned back, staring at the scroll hanging on the wall. It was a few lines of regular script in ink that couldn't have been written that long ago. The ink should not have yellowed yet. The writing was: soft rosy hands, yellow sealed wine, the city brimmed with the colors of spring as willows line the palace walls. East wind devastates, happiness wears thin. A cupful of melancholy, several years of separation. Wrong, wrong, wrong. Spring remains the same, but her frame grew thin, tears washed away the rouge and dampened her silk handkerchief. The peach blossoms are falling, by the empty waterside pavilion. Our oath to each other still remains, yet I can no longer profess my love. Don't. Chu Wanning's heart suddenly skipped a beat. The regular script was neat and correct, and the 3 characters spelling Chen Bohuan were very eye-catching. The son of Chen, who was forced to marry the daughter of the Yao family, had an unspeakable sadness in his heart. In the last days of his life, he could only stand by the window, with an ink and brush, transcribing the first part of Phoenix Hairpin. Never wanting to stay in the Chen residence anymore, he endured the sharp pain from the wound on his shoulder and turned to leave. Chu Wanning and Shi Mei were both injured and weren't able to travel back to Shizun Peak on foot. Chu Wanning especially didn't like flying with swords, so they went into town to find an inn to rest. It also gave them a chance to see the aftermath of the Master of Ceremonies deity's ritual the next day. Although those ghostly corpses were obliterated into dust by Chu Wanning's wind, only the bodies controlled by the Master of Ceremonies deity were destroyed. The souls were left alone. They would stay a few more days to make sure there were no residual effects. Chu Wanning walked silently in front while the 2 disciples followed behind. A thought popped up in Shimei's mind and he asked, Aran, the clothes you and Shizun are wearing, what's going on? Mo Ran froze. He suddenly remembered that he and Chu Wanning were still wearing auspicious wedding outfits. For fear of Shimei misunderstanding, they had to take them off. From the illusion that happened earlier. Don't think too much about it, Halfway through the conversation, he took another look and discovered that, because Shimei had also participated in the Master of Ceremonies deity's wedding ceremony, he was also wearing one. However, its style was different from theirs. In addition to the wear and tear of the tattered outfit, it was hard to make out what its original design was supposed to be. But nonetheless, it was also an auspicious outfit. Standing side by side with Shimei right now, he could almost imagine holding his hand, celebrating in the Master of Ceremonies deity's illusion and drinking a cup of ceremonial tea together. Because of that thought, he just couldn't bring himself to take off the outfit. He just stared at Shimei blankly. Shimei asked with a gentle smile, "What's the matter? You trailed off." Mo Ran muttered. "Nothing." Chu Wanning was in front of them, a few steps ahead. He didn't know how much of their conversation he heard, but he suddenly stopped and turned around. The sun had started to rise. After a tumultuous night, the twilight faded away and the first ray of dawn emerged from the horizon. The bright red sun rose like a broken and bleeding heart, struggling out of the abyss of the dark night, with a glorious, splendid touch. Chu Wanning stood against the light, standing at the end of the long night that was getting more and more translucent, standing in the light of the first rays of sunlight painting the sky. He was facing to his side, his clothes looked as dark as blood. The sun painted a faint golden edge on the side of his face, making it difficult to see his expression. Suddenly, with a strong surge of spiritual power, the auspicious outfit was torn to shreds by a powerful force. The pieces of the fine red fabric looked like the red petals of a haitang flower, blowing in the wind and scattering in all directions. The outfit fell away, revealing the white robe underneath. It fluttered in the wind along with his long black hair. Fresh blood on his shoulder. Fragments of cloth flying in the wind. The splotches of blood that he had obtained trying to protect Mo Ran were especially prominent and vibrant on the white robe. Chu Wanning sneered rather mockingly, "Mo Weiyu, what can be misunderstood between you and me?" When he got angry, he would call Mo Ran, "Mo Weiyu." He stayed cold and polite, no affliction to his words. Mo Ran choked, preventing him from making any kind of comeback. Chu Wanning smiled and walked away. At this time, there was no one around. He walked up ahead by himself, as if the vast world was small and he was its only inhabitant. His mocking face was angry and bitter. As soon as he arrived at the inn and closed the door, he couldn't help but tense up. Chu Wanning grit his teeth, with an expression of pain on his face. He raised his hand to touch his shoulder. The Master of Ceremonies deity's claws were an extension of the deity's body and not much difference from Tianwen. They were as powerful as a godly weapon. His entire shoulder was torn and scrapped down to the bone. But because he was eager to eradicate the evil spirit, he didn't deal with it in time. Now the wound was infected and had started to fester. The pain was unbearable. Standing in his room, he calmed his breathing. Chu Wanning wanted to take off his robe, but the blood on his shoulder had already started clotting. His clothes and his flesh were stuck together, every tug caused severe pain. Mo Ran was in the room next door and the wall of this inn was rather thin. He didn't want anyone to hear him, so he bit his lip and viciously tore the bloody cloth off his shoulder. "Ah!" After a muffled grunt, Chu Wanning slowly loosened his lips. His lips and teeth were painted in blood. He panted. His face was drained of blood, cold sweat breaking out all over him. Dropping his long and thick eyelashes, he trembled slightly and glanced at his injuries. It wasn't too bad. He could handle this. He supported himself on a table and slowly sat down. With some clean water and the handkerchief that she may had brought, he pushed through the pain and used his uninjured hand to slowly clean the wound. He used a sharp knife to cut off the festering skin. Then he applied the wound medicine made by Madame Wang. And then, slowly and with difficulty, wrapped himself in gauze. He wasn't used to showing weakness in front of others. He had experienced this kind of pain many times, and every time he had survived it alone. If a beast was injured, it would hide itself and lick its wound. Sometimes he felt like those animals. In the future, he would probably always be alone. He knew he wasn't likable, so he didn't want to pitifully ask anyone for help. He had his own inexplicable paranoid obsession with his dignity. When he took off his clothes, a pouch fell to the ground. An acacia tree was embroidered on it in red silk. He moved his painful and trembling fingertips and slowly opened it. Inside was 2 pieces of entangled blue silk. His and Mo Ran's. Chu Wanning was at a loss for a while. He wanted to hold the pouch over the candle flame and burn it along with the ridiculous knot of hair. But in the end, he couldn't do it. Binding hair as husband and wife, the love between them is clear. The pitched laughter of the golden boy and girl seemed to ring again in his ears. He knew the deep throbbing sensation he felt in his heart, and he hated himself even more. He held the soft pouch tightly in his hand and slowly closed his eyes. He couldn't accept the thoughts of Mo Ran that he'd always had in his heart. He wanted nothing more than to be able to dig out his heart, and slice out those nasty thoughts. Cut them out, then throw it away. What was wrong with him? Is Mo Wei really the one he should be concerned about? What kind of Shizun was he? He really was worse than an animal. Knock, knock, knock. There were suddenly knocks on the door, and Chu Wanning, who had been chastising himself, was startled. He quickly raised his eyes and swiftly put the pouch into his wide sleeve. He put on a not so convincing composed expression. Who is it? Shizun, it's me. Mo Ran's voice sounded outside, making Chu Wanning's heart beat a little faster. Please, open the door. End chapter.